Great. And I will share my screen because that seems important. All right, is everybody looking at the slides? All right, cool. And I'm gonna make them big. Okay, cool. So let's get started. Thank you everybody for attending. I am going to, are you looking at the correct view of the slides? Is it full screen? Excellent.
Good.
Great. So hi, I'm Kelly Latimer. I'm the safety director for the Boston Light Swim. Welcome to this year's safety meeting. So we're going to tonight just go over some general information ahead of the swim, some information about boats and communication and safety on the course the day of the swim. We'll go through just the brief overview of the rules, as well as a race day sort of walkthrough in terms of timeline and a course overview. So like I mentioned, if you have any questions along the way, let me know, or we can take them at the end. So first off, congratulations. This is very exciting for all of you. Some of you have been here before, some of you are brand new to this, but the first swimming of the Boston Light actually took place in 1907. So there is a really long storied history of this swim in the harbor over the last, 120 years. We will have our local Boston Light historian, Bob McCormick, at our lunch on Friday, and he's going to give a brief overview of some of the highlights of the history of the swim, and he'll have a couple of volumes of books that he's written that summarize the different years that we've been doing this, and many people before us have been doing this. So yeah, this is a really long-standing event, and it's very exciting to have all of you here. Some of the fun stuff before the event. So the event tracking information did actually go out in the email that came out 2 days ago. So we do partner with TrackRS to get everybody a tracker. It does require that you download a client onto your phone and activate that before the start. If anybody has any questions about this, we can check in at the lunch on Friday. I'm happy to help people get this set up. But there is instructions here to test this out, and then that's the tracking URL there on the left that you'll be able to share with your friends and family to track you on the day of the swim.
And just to be clear, that's for all of the swimmers only, and one for relay. I don't know if we have relay folks on, but only one phone per relay team.
Yep, good point. Also for social media, hashtag 2023BLS, and you can follow Mausa or BLS also on what is the entity formerly known as Twitter. So a couple points on weather. So we have a very notably finicky weather here in New England. We've had a very wet summer. We've had a very up and down, humid, just damp everything. The weather can change very quickly here. We have a plan for course evacuation just in case we need that. There was a couple years ago, we actually sent everyone out to the start, and then a fog bank so thick that you couldn't see your hand in front of your face rolled in, and we had to cancel the race last minute. These things are very unlikely, but we do have a plan for this and want to make sure everybody understands. If there is a course evacuation, or if the swim is canceled, that will be communicated to swimmers. If it's before the swim, it'll be communicated by email. If it's during the swim, it'll be communicated very clearly by VHF radio. And all of your escort boats should be listening for that announcement. That means the swimmer gets out of the water if they're in the water, and everyone returns to the yacht club. We do suggest that you still give your boater their donation in the event of a cancellation like that. This is just a little screenshot I grabbed from the National Data Buoy Center. This is a buoy that is closest to the start of the swim. And you can see this is back from actually last week, so the 4th of August to the 9th. The bottom of this is 60 degrees and the top is 70, and you can see this drop of almost 10 degrees in a couple of days. That can happen as well. The water temperature could be in the upper 50s, or it could be 70 at the start. Generally, we expect it's coldest out by the light, and it'll warm up as you head in, but anything can happen. And if that gives you a lot of anxiety, I can also tell you this is the chart of the water temperature from last Friday to today. So it's rebounded back up to the upper 60s. So that doesn't mean it's not going to do the 10-degree swing again, but just to get everybody, set your expectations for what the water temperature is going to be. The current forecast, departing the yacht club at 6:30 Saturday morning, it's going to be around 60. The humidity is going to be low and it's going to be breezy. So definitely be prepared with layers, a nice warm hat. Getting out to the start is going to be chilly. And you're going to be in for a chilly day, so don't get cold on the way out, please. The high temp is going to be in the mid to upper 70s. It is expected to be sunny. It is going to be breezy. That could mean some chop on the course, but you all are experienced open water swimmers and you're totally ready for that. That being said, crew in particular, make sure that you know your swimmer. Please know what your swimmer's weaknesses are in terms of hypothermia. Do they tolerate the cold well? Do they not? Even if they do, what does it look like if they start to become hypothermic? Pay attention to stroke rate. You should make sure that your swimmer is not able to, that your swimmer is able to communicate with you at feeds, that they're continuing to feed. These sorts of things, just to make sure that your swimmer is dealing well with the cold and not succumbing to that, or exhaustion, dehydration. You just know what to look for and have that conversation with your swimmer ahead of time to make sure that you're on the same page, please. Sea life. We are in Massachusetts. There are sharks around. It is exceedingly rare for there to be sharks sighted in the harbor. It's mostly the farther out waters. However, full disclosure, this is a place where we have sharks passing past the harbor. We do get jellyfish. This year there's been predominantly moon jellies, which do not sting. I've not heard any recent reports of any of the stingy ones, so that's great. We do have whales in the neighborhood and other critters. This is just full disclosure. Don't expect to see too much, maybe a curious seal if you're lucky, and that's about it. So in terms of our boats, so each of you has one boat per swimmer or per relay assigned to you. You've hopefully been in close communication with your pilot up to this point. We have no support swimmings allowed, so there should only ever be one swimmer in the water per boat at any time, full stop. And that includes with the relays. You're allowed to have one swimmer in the water, with the exception of that brief transition period. We do not expect any kayaks this year. Kayaks are only allowed if you pre-clear that with Boston Light and your pilot. We do not have anybody who is notified that they would like to use a kayak this year, so we don't expect to see any. This year, we're going to have 6 safety boats out on the course. So we'll be patrolling the front, the rear, and the sides of the course to intercept any oncoming traffic and make sure that if there are any safety issues, we can communicate those amongst ourselves and to everyone else. We'll be using VHF channel 72 for event communications, and then the Coast Guard is always able to be reached on channel 16. This year, we're also going to have the Massachusetts State Police out on the water with us, so there'll be some blue lights in the area, so don't be surprised. In terms of communication on the course, so this is particularly for crew and for boaters. On the water, we'll have 2-way radios. Again, I mentioned VHF channel 72 to communicate between the safety officer, race director. There's going to be a Mausa, a Boston Light race representative on each of the safety boats, and we'll be able to communicate with each other via radio. For water to shore communication, we're going to be providing each boat with a card with cell phone numbers for the race director and myself, the safety director, so that if there is a breakdown in the radio communication, we have a backup plan. In case of true emergency, you can always contact the Coast Guard on channel 16. And you can expect to see the safety boats being pretty active, especially later in the morning when boat traffic picks up, trying to ward off oncoming boat traffic. But each of the swimmers' crew is going to be provided with an air horn, just in case somebody's coming in hot and safety boat didn't get them. And we want to just try to make sure that the oncoming traffic is aware that there's a swimmer in the water. So just to go over a brief highlight of the rules, the full list of rules is posted on the Boston Light Swim website. So if you want to reference those, I know that there's a link to that in an email that Mina has already sent out. And actually, I think there's a full list of the rules in that email. You may not touch a boat or another person during the swim. Excuse me. No wetsuits or other buoyancy aiding or heat retaining swimwear. No fast skins. If you have any questions about acceptable swimwear, just send us an email and we can address those questions. You must always be beside your boat or in front, slightly in front of your boat. You may never swim behind your boat. That is an absolute safety driven rule. We don't want anybody anywhere near the rear of the boat, near the engines. So always please be beside your boat or slightly in front. No watches, personal music players, electronics of any kind. That includes GPS watches, MP3 players, non-GPS watches, just no electronics, full stop. One swimmer per boat, which is a rule I already mentioned. And then you are required to wear the cap that we provide. I'm going to say this twice because in the first meeting, I actually said you don't have to wear the cap, but we've clarified we are requiring everyone to wear the cap that we provide for the swim. So it's a nice gold colored Boston Light swim cap.
They won't be required to be numbered, but just because we have Boston Marine Police presence out there, we'd like to keep everybody in the same cap so there are no confusion when we get closer to shore and there may be just public beachgoers or others doing laps. We want to be able to be clear who's with BLS and who is not.
Yep. Thanks, Mina. And then I know we only have one relay, but the relays, you're only allowed to have one person in the water at a time. It is helter-skelter, although our only relay is a 2-person relay, so it's going to be one and then the other. And the only time that anyone is allowed to break the one person in the water at a time is that you are allowed to finish together, your whole relay team together. That's the only time. Okay, so we're going to go through a timeline of race morning and a course overview sort of alongside that. So on Saturday morning, we need everyone to arrive at the Boston Harbor Yacht Club by 5:30 in the morning. Check in, get your flags. Each swimmer is going to receive a diver down flag, as well as a set of numbered swimmer flags. And so those are going to be affixed to your boats. We're going to have some people, some volunteers down on the wharf with zip ties. We'll help you get those flags attached, or at least provide you with the zip ties so you can get them on once you get out to the start. There's also going to be a bag drop for your stuff. So because the finish of the swim is maybe 1/3 of a mile down the street from where the yacht club is, anything that you're going to want at the finish, you can put into these big white marked trash bags with your number on them. And then after everyone leaves, we'll have a group of volunteers that will load everything into a van, drive it down the street, and it will be at the finish for you.
Just one note there is that there are dry bags that are provided by BLS. This is your swag for the event in addition to a t-shirt. So you may opt for that. We will have tags to put on those dry bags since they all look the same. You may opt to use that instead of just a regular trash bag, whatever works for you.
That's a really good point. I forgot about the awesome swag bags this year. So we're asking everyone to meet your boater. You want to be underway by 6:30. Meet your boater and be underway by 6:30 in the morning. It can take a while, especially for slower boats, to get out there. If your boater knows that they are a little bit, Carmen, I see your hand. I'm just going to finish this point and then I'll see what you have to say. We want to get everybody moving out so that we know that everyone is out to the light before the 7:30 start. So be in contact with your boater. You can see this is the size of the docks at the yacht club. We cannot fit all of the boats at once. So, try to coordinate with your boater. If you're comfortable leaving a little bit earlier, meet up a little bit earlier. But this is kind of what to expect as everyone moves down, gets their flags, their zip ties, boards the boats, and then heads out to the start. There will be somebody, a volunteer, checking everybody off as they take off towards the light. But you really do want to be underway by 6:30 in the morning. Carmen, what did you have to say?
No, that was by accident. I was looking at the picture, looking at my picture.
No worries. Good use of raise the hands, though. I mean, it's a good feature. Okay, so like I mentioned, the race start, the first wave is going to start at 7:30. So this is actually the first time that we're doing a 2-wave start. So 7:30 a.m., the wave 1 swimmers will begin, and at 7:45, the wave 2 swimmers will begin. Each of the waves is going to have a 5-minute warning, which will be 2 short blasts of the air horn. And the wave start will also be signaled by 1 long blast of the air horn. And the warnings and the starts will also be communicated on the radio. So make sure those radios are on. You should be able to hear a nice countdown, and then be ready to jump in the water when your signal sounds. So this is our course. So the Boston Harbor Islands are the buoys, so we don't have to actually use any real buoys. If you are in town early, or if you're staying a couple days late, I highly recommend looking into one of the trips out to the island. There are some tours that you can take to get out onto some of the islands. It's just a really nice place to spend a day on the water if you're not in the water. So to start, we're going to line everybody up in a line directly south of the lighthouse. We're going to have safety boats also marking the start line. We're going to ask that the Wave 1 boats come to the front and try to line up in between those two safety boats. There's also a can out there, a can buoy out there that we'll use between the lighthouse, the buoy, and use those safety boats as a reference to line everybody up in anticipation of that 7:30 start. And we'll ask the Wave 2 boats to hang back just a little bit. After the first wave goes off at 7:30, at 7:35, we'll ask the Wave 2 boats to stage up on the same line and get ready for the second wave start.
Just a note there, that one can is Nantasket Roads buoy number 4. If you'd like to find that on the map, but you should see us stationed there. There'll be a boat on either side. And we will have our lights on. You'll see some flashing lights coming from those boats. We'll try to make those as visible as possible.
Yeah, and the escort boats will have big yellow swimmer flags, where the safety boats will have big red flags along the sides. That will also help to differentiate as long as you're close enough. The lights, I think, are going to be helpful. That's also new this year.
Yeah, so we'll keep those lights on just for the start, just those 2 boats. Once we start getting going, then everyone will turn the lights on.
Yep. So once you hear that air horn, jump off your boat and start swimming towards Boston. For boaters, just take note that, we will be having about 11 swimmers in each wave. So this is going to be the most congested that the course will get. Just, excuse me, just keep an extra eye out for other swimmers nearby. This is the most chaotic bit at the beginning. So we do start with the tide. There's going to be an enormous tidal assist for the beginning. When I did this, I think I describe it as the fastest 2 miles I've ever swum, were the first 2 miles from the light to George's Island. It's a great, really enjoy it. You can really get flying. So that's our first landmark, is hitting George's Island. Well, that'll be on your right. Rainsford Island is the next island we're going to pass, so we're going to keep that one on your left. It's a pretty small strip of sand. You can see there's like a landslide feature over on one side of the island. You can see a big wall of sand, but that's a pretty small one. Once you come past Rainsford, we're going to round the southern end of Long Island and through what used to be the Long Island Bridge. So there used to be a bridge that connects Moon Island and Long Island, which was demolished several years ago. Oops, wrong way. This is what it looks like today. So going under the remnants of the bridge, boats are required to go through the center stanchions. This is the deepest. This is the deepest channel. This is this is the one where boats go. This is the safest option. Swimmers, this is the only time you are allowed to separate from your boat. You can go through any of the sections you prefer, as long as the water is deep enough. Just make sure that you communicate with your boater ahead of time what your plan is that the boat would go through, and maybe you go through the second one, or if you're going to go through the third one, just make sure that you have that cleared up. It can get, on a busy day, if the weather's really nice, it can get a little bit trafficy here. So it actually, is a good idea maybe for a swimmer to go through at least the second one, to avoid having too many boats going through there at once. Once you come out under the remnants of the bridge, we're going to go in between Thompson Island and Spectacle Island. We recommend that you stick to the middle of the channel here. And then once you get to the tip of Thompson, you're going to head in straight towards the finish. And I say that like it's nothing, but this is still a pretty long stretch heading into the beach. This is what it'll look like from pretty far out. This is actually, the finish is actually slightly off screen to the right here, but there our 3 sets of fences in the water. Actually, 4 sets of fences in the water. We're going to finish just to the right of the rightmost fence. So this is the beach coming in towards the community center building, which begins right here and goes slightly off screen. I need to find an updated screenshot that actually shows the correct side of the fences. So this is what the finish will look similar to this. So we'll have a big finish line on the fence. We're going to finish on the M Street beach just outside the fence at the Curly Community Center. So we'll be finishing just to the right of the community center. There'll be big orange buoys. There'll be a big orange chute for you to run up. And you can run up on the beach and have a good sit and celebration. So also important are the course cutoffs. So we do have cutoff times along the course. There are 4 points in particular. By far the most important of these is the 12:45 cutoff. This is a 5-hour cutoff from the start that is tied to our Coast Guard permitting. So we have 5 hours. So if we are still on the water after that point, we risk losing future good relationships with our Coast Guard partners. So if you are approached by a safety boat and you are told that you need to get out of the water, please yield to that request and clear the water. We hate having to do that to people, but it does happen. These other points, we need you by Rainsford Island by 9:45, Long Island by 10:45, around the tip of Thompson by 11:45. These are a little bit more wiggly. We'll see how you're doing, but again, these are our course cutoffs. So after these points, we do reserve the right to ask you to clear the water so that we can maintain our course integrity. Once you're at the finish line, this is actually true throughout. We're going to have EMTs on site throughout the day, but the EMTs will be there in case you need to get checked out once you're done. Boats, if you could please offload the crew back at the Boston Harbor Yacht Club and also return your boat flags. So we do reuse these flags. We've been using them for several years. And so we always really appreciate when people bring them back for us. So you can cut those off on your way back over and offload them with your crew, and then they'll get back to us. So family and friends are welcome on the beach. There's no alcohol permitted on the beach, unfortunately. Snacks and water will be available for swimmers at the finish. We're going to have lunch. There are porta potties available on the beach. I think Mina told me that there are 3 of them. However, there's also, now that we have the Curly Community Center has reopened after a long renovation, if you create an account at this link, you'll be able to access the community center, including their showers and their bathrooms. All you have to do is create an account. You don't have to register for any programs. They're in a really weird limbo with their account registration system. So for now, it's free. You can save time, register yourself before Saturday. And then when you're done, you'll be able to actually go in there and take a shower, which would be pretty awesome.
When you go into the community center, they just ask for the phone number that you registered with. So just make sure that it's a phone number that you know and use frequently.
Good tip.
One other note there, just to want to say, we are setting up on the beach. We are trying to bring as many, because we used to finish at the Curly Community Center, and we are unable to, or have been unable to in the last several years while it's been closed. And then while the piping plovers were piping. But so because we are on the beach, we are trying to bring as much seating as we can. I did want to ask that anyone who is coming, who is local, and do recommend that you bring a beach chair if you can. That would be super helpful for us.
Awesome.
And we're also happy to transport that over. If you bring it in the morning, we can take that in the van when we set up for the beach. We'll bring over any chair that you have, but we'll also have many available certainly for anyone from out of town. We'll try to bring as much seating as we can.
Awards and barbecue lunch. Awards will be given out on the beach at 1 o'clock or earlier if everyone has already finished. That's it. So we want to thank our sponsors. So we've been working with the city, the Coast Guard, DCR for several years. We have also our local sponsors, Night Shift Brewing, Foodies Market. We've got some donations from West Marine, Dick's Sporting Goods. I mentioned our Track RS interactions, but also the Boston Harbor Yacht Club is a huge asset to us in allowing us to stage our pre-swim activities there and allow us to use our docks. So a huge thank you to them as well. And then also, you know, this is a volunteer team. So we have Elaine and Mina and Alana, who are Massachusetts Open Water Swimming Association muckety mucks involved, but then also we have our volunteer committee. And it does, you know, it's a passion project. We love it. But yeah, it's a lot of work. So thanks to everybody. If you have any questions, I'll open up. Please let me know right now if you have any questions. Mina's here. I'm here, and then you can also reach us by email afterwards for either of these. And yeah, I'm gonna open up that chat right now.
Yeah, so there is no barbecue after the event. Like last year, we won't be able to go back to the yacht club afterwards. We are trying to make a space on the beach for us where we will have food for the swimmers, for any crew members that would like to join us on the beach, and any boater, if you would like to join us there as well. You know, that can be difficult for some, but we will have sandwiches for all on the beach. We are hoping to find a way to do this either at the yacht club on a day that is available to us. Unfortunately, this year it was not, or finishing at some other location afterwards. We decided this year to just keep everything in one place so we don't have to lug people back to the other location, to any other location.
How do boat escorts know their swimmers' number? So swimmers should know their number by now. That information has been sent out. So you can ask your swimmer their number. I'm not sure if we have a list posted somewhere on the site at this point, Mina.
Yes, I can share that in the chat in just a second, but if you do go to massausa.org /swimmer central, all of the numbers are up there now. So let me post that in the chat in just a moment. Your swimmers will be numbered, and all of the odd number swimmers will be in wave 1, even number in wave 2. Just for a moment, and I'll drop that in chat.
Yep. Corey, to your point about keeping the flashing lights on at all times, we do plan to keep the flashing lights on the safety boats at all times. The only time where we're going to have some of them turned off is at the start. The only boats that have the lights on will be those that are marking the starting line. Once everyone is underway, we're going to turn on the amber flashing lights on all of the safety boats. And then can boaters for the swimmer possibly get their flags and stuff on Friday? We will have the stuff on site. We just need to make sure that the swimmer still comes by the yacht club to check in the morning. I know there is somebody who's leaving from, I think, the Dorchester Yacht Club, and they had asked us about that. Mina, will we have everything ready to go on Friday for flags and stuff to hand out?
We could, but we still need to number swimmers. Let me just think on whether we want to do that. Who can we just follow up with whomever?
Yeah, it was Corey. Yep. Can you swim back out to your boat to go back to the Boston Harbor Yacht Club? So all of your stuff is going to be transferred from the yacht club to the beach. So really there's not a reason to go back to the yacht club. Your crew will be offloaded at the yacht club, and then we'll be able to walk. It's like a 8-minute walk down the beach to the finish line. Just want to make sure there's nothing different this year with having a kayaker. There is nothing different this year with having a kayaker. The only time you're allowed to have a kayaker is if you pre-clear that request with us and with your pilot to make sure that both are comfortable. It may come down to conditions on the water. It is going to be windy on Saturday, but we also haven't heard from anybody requesting a kayaker this year. So if it's something that you're interested in, please send us an email as soon as possible. We can talk about it. Is there an EMT out on the water this year? There is not an EMT out on the water. We are going to have state police boats, but we don't actually have an EMT on a boat. And where do the boaters go to return the flags? Boaters will go back to the yacht club, and when they offload their swimmer's crew, they can also, there will be a volunteer at the yacht club that will take the flags for you and get them put back in our stash of stuff. And then Mina posted the link to the Swimmer Central, which has the list of swimmer numbers. Are there any other questions from anybody actively on the video? No?
If you do think of anything else, you can always email us at blsinfo@massausa.org. I will put that in the chat as well. And we will have an opportunity on Friday at lunch when we'll do another brief overview, ask if there are any questions.
Yes.
Mostly go over the timeline.
I have one question. You gave specific times if they don't make it from point A to point B within a certain time, they have to come out of the water.
Yes.
Now, do we get a printout of that so we know what these times are? Or will you be giving that to the swimmer?
Well,
Or should we just memorize it from this?
no, there'll be somebody who will let you know if the cutoff has been missed. So there
okay.
will be a sweep vote, and they will communicate with you on channel 72 to let you know. They will come up and up to the boat and make it clear that it's time for the swimmer to get out of the water
Okay.
if they haven't met that cutoff.
Okay,
We
so
are
the
pretty
pilot doesn't have
generous
to
with
make
the,
that determination.
not at
Nope.
all. No.
That's a relief.
Yes.
Yes. It's not an easy decision. It's the hardest thing about being out on the water in a safety boat is having to tell people that they have to get out. So it is not your responsibility.
Okay.
And
good.
we do give a good deal of leeway. It does take a lot for that cutoff to be missed. And if it does happen, then we end up with somebody really far away from the pack, and that doesn't allow us to keep the race safe and have the boats covering the distance that we have across all swimmers.
Corey asked if we're the only one with communications on channel 72. Last year there was Marina and Yacht Club traffic. I think last year is maybe the first year that we had issue with it. I think we're gonna try it again. We should be the only ones. Good questions. Anybody else?
Yeah. Hi. Sorry.
No problem.
What's the point at which the boaters sort of separate off to head towards the yacht club and leave their swimmers?
So usually the boats will stay just offshore, at a safe depth for each boat until the swimmer has cleared the water. Usually their crew likes to see them finish. And then once they're done, you can motor back to the yacht club.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yep. And one thing I didn't mention that I will mention now too is that as you get closer, ideally you're coming in and avoiding this, but there is a pretty large field of moored boats just off the beach. So try to, as you're coming in, try to boaters especially, try to guide your swimmer to the left of that field of boats, just so that you don't have to worry about getting too close and having to swim along that line.
Question for you.
Sure.
Can you, at the finish line, can you sprint in, drop the crew off so they can watch their swimmer come in and then head back out?
Sprint in, do you mean like leave your swimmer?
Well, your swimmer's finishing. As your swimmer
No,
finishing,
you need to
come in.
accompany your swimmer all the way to the beach, and then once they're finished, you can go back to the yacht club.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Brandon, do you have a question? I wasn't sure if you were waving or if you had a question. I can't hear you.
You're muted.
Look,
She's got it.
I'm new to this technology. I just wanted to remind people, Kelly, that if you have an issue with a boater in your purview, don't tell the safety boaters, tell that boater. Because by the time the safety boats get to that situation, we can't see what you can see. So if you have somebody that you have a swimmer that you're concerned about, tell that boater directly on the radio. Don't communicate with
I think it's fine to communicate to the safety
Yeah, but that-
boats as well.
as well, yes, but also.
If you're on channel 72, everyone should be able to hear that. It's fine to address other boats directly if you see something that's unsafe. Absolutely.
There was a question, what does your pace per 100 need to be to finish in the allotted time? That's a really hard question because of the dynamic nature of the course. So the tide is changing, the wind's going to be changing. There are years when the fastest swimmers finish in 2.5 hours. There are years when the fastest swimmers finish in over 3 hours. There can be a really, it's not as cut and dry as 100 pace. So I'm sorry, but I'm not going to be able to provide an answer for that question. Good question, but I'm not going to be able to provide an answer. All right, if any other questions come up, feel free to email us. I think Mina put that email in the chat, or
I will right now. How about
info
that?
at BLS. Also, our email addresses are at the end here of this presentation. I will be uploading
And
this
also
to
at the
website.
bottom of the Swimmer Central page, there is all of the contact information that you could ever want. There are info sheets for swimmers and boaters that do include those cutoff times. If you do want to look at them, I wouldn't
Memorize the
fixate on them
coordinates.
as swimmers. They are relatively generous. But yes, so additional info on that page. Also, the link to all of the past emails if there's any information that you want to review that we've already sent out.
Corey asked one more question about a list of cell numbers and
Oh, yes. Sorry. Yeah, I just saw that. Corey, yes, there will be a list of, I don't think there's going to be a list of all boaters, but there is going to be a list of cell phone numbers for the BLS representatives so that if there is a breakdown in radio communication, you'll be able to reach us directly. And that will be provided at check-in with the swag bags and everything that when the air horns that'll be in there. I see somebody has a question.
Yeah, Kelly, regarding radio communications, it's likely that boaters don't commonly use channel 72 in Boston. Do we know what channel they normally would monitor?
I personally don't. To any of the other boaters?
Because it would be really useful